Hello, everyone. We'll begin in just one more minute. If you haven't had a chance yet, we encourage you to visit the link that is in the chat, and you'll see it on the screen. There's a small code to answer a question: what stops you from acting on your great ideas? And we'll share those responses later on during the meeting. We appreciate your participation. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to WiLS 2019 membership meeting. It's 10:30, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. I'm Andy Coffin, Community Liaison and Service Specialist with WiLS. And on the line, we have other WiLS staffers: Jeff Brunner, Kate Clark, Melody Clark, Sarah Gold, and Emily Fotenhauer. They'll introduce themselves as they share information today and introduce our guest presenters. Unfortunately, WiLS Director Steph Morrill is not able to join us today, but she has asked me to sincerely thank you for your membership and your continued involvement in WiLS. From all of us, we all feel that way, so thank you very much. A couple of quick notes before we get started. We have a question for you to respond to, and we'll talk about the responses to those a little later in the meeting. If you want to participate, information is in the chat. You can visit menti.com and enter the code to respond to the question, which is: what stops you from acting on your great ideas? And we'll have another question like this at the end of today's meeting as well. Also, everyone on the call is muted, so we can ensure audio quality today. If you called in on the phone and you didn't enter an audio pin, please check to make sure that your line is muted. And if you have questions, feel free to use the chat to ask them. So with that, on with the meeting. Here at WiLS, we believe that libraries, cultural institutions, and their partners make the world a better place. We build relationships and provide services so they can do more with their time and money. We help our members turn ideas into action. This is WiLS' mission. Every one of us here is proud to work toward this mission every day, and we hope you'll see that reflected in the content of today's meeting. To start, we're going to share one in particular way we're helping our members turn ideas into action, and to tell us more about that, I'm going to turn it over to Melody Clark.
Hello, everyone. As Andy said, I'm Melody Clark. I'm one of the community liaisons and service specialists here at WiLS. And as Andy mentioned, we have a new WiLS Ideas to Action Fund. This is something that we launched last year, and our mission is to do just that, to help our members turn their ideas into action by providing support for innovative or collaborative projects in order to help our members reach their goals and have a positive impact on the Wisconsin library community. So in the first year of the fund, WiLS awarded almost $24,000 and a little over of 20 hours of WiLS staff time to 6 different projects, which is very exciting. Going in, we realized that sometimes the barrier to completing a project is not lack of funds, but lack of time to plan or to think about a process. So instead of, or in addition to funding, we wanted organizations to be able to apply for WiLS staff time to help organize the project or provide experts in facilitation, survey administration, or just other project activities. So we are very excited that all 6 of our recipients are here with us today to share a little bit about their project, how it's collaborative or innovative, and some tips on how you too could implement a similar project within your community. So first up, we have Amanda Brookner from the Carl Junginger Memorial Library to talk about their Hispanic Community Outreach Project. And Amanda, I hope I pronounced your library correctly. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Amanda Brookner. I'm the Youth Service Librarian at our public library and the Assistant Director. So I just have some brief information about Waterloo and our library. Our city population, you can see there's 3,336. So we are a smaller city. But we do have a growing Hispanic population. We have seasonal and permanent residents. There's a couple bigger businesses in our city that have a lot of employees that just come for seasonal work. And so we're trying to reach out to them. And some of those seasonal employees are becoming permanent residents. The community conversation we had for our strategic plan a couple years ago kind of got us started on looking at our Hispanic population and what we can do for them. Unfortunately, when we first started, we thought, okay, we'll translate a lot of information for them in Spanish, and thought, which is a good first step, but it just wasn't enough. We still weren't reaching them well enough, and we found through the strategic plan and talking to the Hispanic population that a lot of them coming in couldn't read English or Spanish, which meant translating materials, brochures, and flyers could be helpful for some, but not all. Being a smaller city, we also kind of felt we had limited local resources, but delving into this even more, especially with this grant, we kind of found we had some more resources than we realized. And we did just recently have quite a significant budget cut from our city this year. So this WiLS grant is very much appreciated to get this project going. So our main community partners is McKay Nursery. McKay Nursery employs people to help with planting, and they do have a spring orientation, which we just found out recently too when starting this grant work, and that's going to be in April. So we never knew that they had this orientation where they actually invite businesses from around the area to speak to these employees for while they're here. So this will be very exciting. This will be the first year we'll be able to talk to them ourselves. We are going to bring a translator in to make sure they understand what we're telling them, but it'll be really nice to be there when they come in right away. We're also going to give them an invitation at that time to a special spring event that we're going to have at our public library in April. We're going to call it our welcome event. So this event we will have translators, and I'll have some more details on that event coming up too. And then library outreach baskets is another thing we've talked about for a while but haven't implemented with McKay Nursery. McKay Nursery has dorms or apartments for a lot of their temporary workers or seasonal workers, and sometimes they don't understand when they're checking things out how to get it back to us, or sometimes they have to leave and didn't plan on how to get those library materials back to us. So to make that process a little smoother, we wanted to create outreach baskets or bins that we could have in their dorms, in their apartments, that we can find an easier way of them returning those items. Our next community partner is Ayala's Market, is a kind of a newer business. Last few years, they've been doing some really great things with our Hispanic population. We've had some publicity at their store. We've started communicating with them with some of our programs. They have supplies for us for like snow cones and things, but we just weren't really communicating enough about what more could we do, because they really know a lot of the families in town, and that they're really comfortable speaking with them. So we've talked to them about doing catering service for us for the upcoming welcome event. So they're really excited about doing this collaboration as well. They've also done a Cinco de Mayo celebration in our community, and they've also helped with the 4th of July celebration. So they really have an idea of what the families are looking for in a way to kind of make them feel comfortable. In the Jefferson County Literacy Council is another big resource of ours for our city, because they come in and do English as a second language meetings in one of our conference rooms. So they have helped us find translators that can help us with some of these events. We are also going to meet with the ESL participants and give them some welcome bags that will have translated brochures and information in it. We'll have a translator at those meetings to explain those things that we're giving to them, how they can use those bags for checkout. And then, of course, to also at the ESL meetings to talk to those participants about the welcome event and invitation to that spring event. And then the welcome event coming up in April. So what we'll be doing there is, of course, we're going to have more welcome bags because we're reaching out to those through the ESL program, through McKay Nursery, but there's even more than that in the community. So we really want to make sure we're reaching everybody in Waterloo. So again, that'll have just some nice things for them to use at the library and some translated information. We are going to have some translators at the welcome event to actually give tours of the library, because we have found out many of them might come in for the ESL class, but they don't stay to check anything out or to really use the library because they don't understand how to use the library, that how long things can be checked out for, and that it really is free with the library card. Ayala's, again, will be helping us with this welcome event with food. They're going to have some like tacos and quesadillas. And again, they of course can communicate with the families a lot more comfortably too. The family entertainment will have, we're thinking of just some balloonists. And we also, of course, are going to have some new materials that we're ordering for the Spanish collection, especially some audio and children's materials. And we want to display that right on that welcome event that day so they can see some of the new things that we're updating for the collection. So that is all I have, and we really appreciate the grant from WiLS. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really exciting. All right, next up we have Eric, Jennings, and Hans Kishel from Mcintyre Library at UW-Eau Claire, and they're going to talk to us about their Games in Libraries conference.
All right. Can everyone hear me? Hopefully.
Yes, you sound great. Thank you.
So I'm Eric.
I'm Hans.
And we came up with this idea a few years ago to have a Games in Libraries conference because, as this first slide says, games are a big business. And this is just an indication of how much people in the US or around the world, excuse me, I think, spend on video games, and that's about $140 billion this last year. And on the next slide, it actually shows you that in addition to video games, hobby games, or what one typically thinks of as board and card games, role-playing games, they're also a really large business. We have, about $1.2 billion. And as we're both gamers, I should say, so we noticed that there was definitely an upsurge in how games were being used in our own library. And so we were thinking about how, if we're doing this, there are probably other libraries that are doing this. And so we wanted to create this idea of a conference where people could actually start sharing this. And so if you go to the next slide here, we really were asking the question of, if people are collecting games in their own personal lives, should we consider collecting them too? And this is not just limited to academic libraries like the one at which we work, but also public libraries or any other library that might be collecting materials. This is something that they may want to consider because games have various different values that could be utilized for different communities. And so that's something that we want you all to consider. So I'll turn it over to Hans here. He can talk a little bit.
Yeah, so just kind of the background for the library. We started collecting games in 2009. Simply, I found out about an online retailer that had a little essay contest where you could write an essay about why you needed games for your library, and then they would give you $100 worth of free games if you won. And I won that, and so I was able to get 6 games that we brought in. And as soon as we did that, we started having students coming in and using those. So most of it was chess and checkers and very abstract games, but we started to see that students enjoyed having those games as a way to take a break while they were in the library or even on the weekends. And then Eric actually got us thinking about this idea of a welcome event to the library that we now call, I don't even know what it's called.
After Dark.
After Dark. But it's basically every fall, the first day of classes, we have this great big party in the library where we have games like life-size Clue that we put a board together for, and outfits. You can see in the picture there are some of the costumes that we have, and we get free pizza for the students, and basically just invite them into the library to have a good time and get to know the librarians. Most of the librarians are there at the event, and they get to run around the library. They play mini golf in the library, and so it's just it's a very nice way to sort of get them in. Now, from that, and then from talking with it was our ESL and international student coordinators, started seeing games as something that the international students might be interested in, and so they gave us some money to get specifically some games that would work well for non-native speakers, and I was able to find some that they have used, still are using consistently to go through and just icebreakers for these students when they come onto campus. And so we started to expand the collection from there, and then we had a math professor who teaches in honors who taught a game design class, and that allowed us to purchase some more games, and I had helped out with that, and now I'm teaching an additional class in honors on game design of simulations. And so we just kind of keep growing the collection from there. But you know, as we were doing this, we were seeing that other libraries were doing this, and there were questions that we had to kind of tackle. And I think that this is in sort of in the next slide. Yeah, so it was, we had questions, and there really wasn't a place to like find out what other people were doing. And so Eric said, hey, we should think about, you know, a game conference. And there are several around the United States and the world, but we wanted one that was specifically for libraries in this region, and we thought it would be nice to have something where we could get together and just share the ideas and the things that we're doing and help each other.
Yeah, and so some of the things that we have learned along the way. So as this slide indicates, we started this process you know, a couple years ago now, almost 2 years, and the biggest thing for us, if you don't work at an academic institution that's affiliated with the state, the biggest roadblock for us is that there's a lot of red tape. It is incredibly difficult to actually run a conference and collect money because of all of the red tape that is required for collecting money and paying out of different accounts, and it was a giant hassle. And so we saw this WiLS grant and said, hey, this would give us an opportunity to not have to charge anyone, which would hopefully make something like this much more interesting to librarians, not just in the state, although that's, you know, one of our primary focuses, but also around the world. And so we started out, after we kind of got some of that stuff figured out, we started collecting some information to really get a better understanding of whether librarians really wanted this sort of thing, what their expectations were, and when they would like to have something like this. As you all probably know, this winter has been kind of difficult, so obviously not having it in winter. And so we ended up settling on May 31st of this year, 2019. And so we are, we got that feedback about what people wanted to see. We got information on when they would like to have it. And so we have in the interim, a year and a half, we have put out the call for proposals. We have 12 presentations that we're going to be having here in Eau Claire at the end of May. And we're just really, really excited about the opportunity for people to share whatever game collection that they may have or be interested in having, to share their knowledge with other folks, because this is, again, as those graphs kind of help situate this, it's a growing business, and it's something that more libraries are investigating. And rather than reinventing the wheel, why not provide an avenue where everyone can learn together and create a network of people that we can rely on and ask questions of when we do encounter those things in our own library. So I think the biggest thing for us is that we are just so excited that we are able to do this for free for everyone. There's no registration cost. Food will be provided. If you stay overnight, obviously we're not going to pay for that, but everything else is completely free, and we wouldn't have been able to do this without the WiLS grant, and so we're just so thankful that we have had that. So we are limiting the number of attendees to 75 just because we're doing this in our own library, and space doesn't allow us to do something else other than having that in the library. And that's why I guess one other point I would like to make is that if you are running something like this, there are usually costs, and the costs of going to another building, either on a campus or in town, like at a hotel, those costs are really high. You're talking $400 to $800 a day. And this grant and having it here in the library allows us to, again, charge people nothing except for their time and travel costs. So we're just so pleased and hope that some of you will check out our website, which is listed below, and also think about coming to the conference at the end of May. So May 31st, it's Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hans and Eric. I think I'm going to have to come visit your After Dark event to play Life-Size Clue, because that sounds amazing. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So next up, we have Brian Kopetzky from the Macmillan Memorial Library in Wisconsin Rapids to talk about their Community STEAM Kits project. So I'm going to hand it over to Brian.
Hi, thank you very much. And I just wanted to thank WiLS for providing us the funding to get this started. So the background of the project is pretty straightforward. We were looking at how library systems have kits that they loan out to their member libraries. And as we're looking at it and looking at some of the cool stuff that we can get in the library, we thought, well, it sure would be nice if we could then turn around and make some of that stuff available to our community organizations. So that was actually the start of the idea, was creating a centralized location. It's getting stuff out to the public is kind of right in our wheelhouse. So what we did is we were looking to create some kits that would then be made available, not to individuals, but to organizations in our community. So we applied for the grant, and luckily we received it. A lot of the purposes, our community is not really well off. So a lot of organizations, I'd hear them say, well, we don't have money for this and we don't have money for that. In other cases, I'd hear, oh, well, we have this. And I'd say, well, we've got that at the library. Why don't you come to the library and use it? And they didn't realize we had it. So there was a lot of duplication and waste going on. And the reality is a lot of this stuff you only use for a couple of weeks while you're working on a project or a piece of curriculum, and then you put it away and it just sits and collects dust. So we thought if we could move stuff around the community, it would get used a lot more and people could save some funds for themselves to do some other cool stuff. So we decided on STEAM kits. Each kit, we've got the curriculum pre-designed, and we've got the areas are science, technology, engineering, art, and we did eliminate the math, mainly because honestly, I found it really hard to come up with things that would be really engaging in math. And I think this is probably a little more important, we wanted to have a little more balance between the technology and the hard sciences and the art and music component. So we decided to ditch the math and go with music. People roll their eyes, but that's okay. So the kits we did for science, we did a couple of Breakout Edu Kits. If you're not familiar with those, they have curriculum on their website. It's basically a escape room in a box, and we put that out. They can access the website. The website actually has the curriculum. It covers math, biology, literacy, pretty much anything you can imagine, and it is also broken down by age categories, so anywhere elementary on up can utilize those kits. We have 2 technology kits. We've got the Circuit Playground and the MBOTs. Both are focused on electronics and coding, so they have a large component that relates to, coding, which is an important topic in education right now. And that also brought me to one of my blind spots when I applied for the grant, which was I was thinking mainly about the school systems, Boys and Girls Club, and bigger organizations that have some infrastructure. And I didn't, think about the fact that like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, STEAM Scouts, they may not have computers available. So I found myself a little bit short, but I'll talk on that in just a few seconds. Engineering was also a challenging one. I decided to go with the erector sets. I want something that the kids, mainly we're focusing on tweens and young teens, would find engaging. So finding something like that in this day and age that's hands-on can be a little challenging, but in the end we decided to go with the erector sets. The mobile stop motion studio, pretty straightforward. Music, we've got a mobile recording studio that has been actually really popular so far. And then we did have some funds left over, and one of the things we wanted to delve into was a little bit of digital literacy and a little bit of, I guess, digital compassion, if you will. So we created a virtual reality mobile lab, and all of the videos and pieces that are installed on those are actually delve into people's lives in other countries. So we've got a virtual walkthrough of a refugee camp and interview for that particular location. And that's the kind of materials that we're looking at with that. And then finally, we've got, for support, we've got the mobile computer lab. Okay, we can move on. So the curriculum is developed off of the Partnership for 21st Century Learning. It's 21st century learning focuses, so collaboration and teamwork is important, creativity. You guys can read the list there, but I really wanted things that would kind of pique curiosity, and initiative are probably the 2 things that I was, mostly focused on. And I wanted to create something that was going to be engaging for the most people that we could possibly get, to embrace these sets. So again, to wrap back, we wanted to develop something fun and engaging. We wanted it to be easy for people who checked it out to use. So with that, we did develop curriculum. Some of the curriculum comes directly from the vendors of the equipment. So the Breakout Edu, they have pre-made curriculum. As you can see by the picture, we've got the Adventure Time group over on the side there. And that is a new project by a company called Adafruit. With their circuit playgrounds, they developed some content around the Cartoon Network and in particular Adventure Time show. So I actually dropped the stuff that I had been working on and went in favor of that because I figure that's going to probably be a little more engaging and interesting than some of the pieces that I was working on at the time. So we switched gears partway through. all the equipment stayed the same, but we just used their content instead of the stuff we were trying to develop with the team that we were working on here. Portability, of course, is a big factor. We wanted everything to be able to fit into boxes so we could get it out to the public. Again, we're just stealing from what we've seen the library systems doing. So we've got the plastic totes and we've got some photography boxes, things like that to get the materials around in. And then the kind of a secondary concern, but certainly something on our minds, was trying to wrap it back to the things we were doing in our own makerspace. So it was definitely intended that we would, each kit would have some tie to what we do in the makerspace here at the library. So it's kind of that, well, you look at all the stuff you can do with our portable kit, but if you'd like to know more, come on over to the library. So the challenges, scope creep was probably the biggest one. I will admit that I've always been guilty of kind of the go big or go home concept. And as I looked at all the stuff that's out there, I felt like a kid in a candy store. So actually trying to pick the contents, we did work with a group of people, educators in the community here. So we had, I think there was about 7 people that helped select the stuff. Unfortunately, probably I would say all of them were just like me, where it's like, oh, well, this is cool, this is cool. So we did have trouble kind of paring that down, but we did in the long run. But after that process, we were moving into the fall. A lot of the people working with me, we had a couple people from the school district, from the technical college here in the area, and from Boys and Girls Club. Right as we were getting the materials in and wanting to start on developing the curriculum for it, they were getting busy with their school lives and things like that. So I felt like we were losing some participation, and frankly, we were also to the part that, where the wheels hit the road, and the harder part, ordering the stuff, was the fun stuff. So, there was some loss of interest and partner support, but we kept enough of a core group that we were able to get everything done. And then for me, I still feel like finding engaging activities is a really challenging piece. When we look at activities for kids, what I want to do is I want sneaky education. So I don't want them to realize we're trying to teach them stuff. I would rather say, make it look like we're just doing all this for fun. And if you learn, that's a nice secondary, but in our minds, it's actually the primary goal. But we wanted things that people would look at and say, I want to do this thing. And then developing a reservation, checkout, and inventory process has been challenging. There are some systems out there that you can purchase off the shelf, but they were cost prohibitive. So in all honesty, that's still kind of what we're working with right now. Right now I'm looking at a Google form and then a Google Calendar where we can track the inventory and things like that. So that's kind of where things stand now. It's been well received. What I did is, as we've developed the kits, I've gotten them out to different schools and with groups in the area for them to kind of play around, and also to give us some feedback as to types of curriculum and pieces we can add to the kits as we go on. So that's where we're at now. We're not quite at full launch, but the kits are done. There's a catalog available and people can request them. But I think, honestly, I don't think the process is ever going to be done. I think we'll always be fine-tuning the content and the curriculum that goes into the kits.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Brian. I love the concept of sneaky education. That's fantastic. So now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Emily Fotenhauer, who will introduce the rest of the Ideas to Action grant recipients.
Hi, thanks, Melody. I had the opportunity to work with Melody to help kind of coordinate this first year of the Ideas to Action Fund. So I get to introduce the second half of our presenters here. So next up we have Jennifer Peterson from the Menasha Joint School District, who's going to share about their project to create an elementary digital citizenship curriculum.
Hello. Hopefully everyone can hear me.
Yes.
So First of all, for those of you who are unfamiliar with digital citizenship, it's teaching students to make safe and educated choices online and in the digital world. So it's really the digital literacy with an added safety component to it. So the new state tech standards and the ISTE standards include digital citizenship. And even though schools aren't required to do these standards, myself, who I have, I'm the only library media specialist for my district. And then we have a technology coach who also is for the whole entire district. And we had decided that we really wanted to do digital citizenship in our school. Our problem was time. Where were we going to fit this in? So our curriculum director didn't want our teachers using their classroom time to teach digital citizenship. And Greg, who's our tech coach, and I, because we have all 9 schools in our district, we couldn't get into all the classrooms. And we just really didn't have time to teach all classes and all lessons. Then last year, our school district decided that our library paraprofessionals in the elementary schools should have our classes for an hour so that the teachers could have an hour prep time. And so that gave us some time to do these lessons, but it still wasn't enough to get us to every school, every class to do this. And so we tried this out the 1 year, which was last year. We use Common Sense Media. They have lessons that are already pre-made, but the lessons weren't working for us. They were way too wordy. They didn't fit. They weren't interactive enough, and our students they weren't responding well to them. And so we decided that what we needed to do was to take that Common Sense Media template kind of, but then make these lessons more interactive, something that students wanted to do, and something that some of the students could do on their own during that library time, even if myself and the tech coach couldn't be there. Then I attended ALA, AASL, and WIMTA, and found out at all of those places that this is a common problem with a lot of districts, and nobody really likes the curriculum that's out there. I mean, everybody agrees that it's important. Everybody likes the basis of the curriculum, but the lessons are kind of wordy. So our district didn't really want to give us time either to work on these lessons. So this is where the Ideas to Action grant came in, because we're like, hey, what if we could get some extra time? We could write these lessons and then we could share them with other schools or other people who wanted them. So our process, once we received the grant, was we were working with a program called Nearpod. Now, Nearpod is an interactive slideshow app, and they already had the Common Sense Media curriculum in their product, but we wanted to still change it. So we were working with them. Then Common Sense Media decided sometime late last spring that they were going to totally do a overhaul of their curriculum, and they took their curriculum offline and then didn't put it back on until it was probably about late October or mid-November. They finally put their new curriculum on. So that was a little bit of a roadblock. Then our Nearpod person that we were working with was fired, and communication from Nearpod kind of just completely dropped off the planet. They never even told us that he had been fired. We tried to call him and couldn't get a hold of him. So then I went to Slate, and I was introduced to Pear Deck. And Pear Deck kind of is another interactive slide program that works a lot like Nearpod. But the good thing about Pear Deck is that it works interactively with Google Slides. So even if a district wanted to use our lessons and they didn't want to pay the extra for the pro version of Pear Deck, they could still use these for free, and we could put them out there and anyone could use them. Pear Deck uses Google's Internet Be Awesome curriculum, but they were also willing to add Common Sense Media so that we could then just take those lessons and repurpose them. Another roadblock that I had was that Greg kind of just stopped working on the project. We met a few times, and then I think he kind of just gave up that we were ever going to get this done. So now I am starting over with Pear Deck. And in the meantime, I'm still trying to get out to all my classes and teach lessons. And so right now I have one good lesson completely finished and a lot of temporary and still need to be tweaked lessons started. So I did have a link to my very first lesson there, but I realized that not everybody could, or nobody could really click on that. So in the chat, I will put a link to my lesson also. And really, I'm just thankful that WIMTA, and WiLS stepped in with their Ideas to Action grant. And I have no clue where I would be if I couldn't have used this extra time to work on these lessons. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jennifer. And I see you've got a link in your slide to an example lesson, it looks like. So next up we have Vince Muesl from Chippewa Valley Technical College. He'll tell us about collaborative work that they're doing with the Affordable Resources Movement.
All right, hello everybody. So to start with just a little bit of background, I was inspired to apply for the Ideas to Action Award because there is so much interest surrounding the affordable education movement, specifically open education in Wisconsin. So now at the time of applying for the award, Wisconsin was behind much of the country in regards to open education. Open education, or as our initiative is called, Affordable Resources Movement, is really reducing the cost of students' learning materials. So for example, a chemistry textbook might cost each student around $200 from a publisher, but using a copy that was created by science faculty and distributed for free would cost the student $0. So open education would be a way for students to save money to allow them to complete their studies and still put food in their tummies and gas in their cars. Next slide, please. Now, as simple as this idea sounds, I knew that if we wanted the affordable resources movement to be successful, we would need to launch a sort of grassroots campaign before state politics kind of blessed us with a top-down approach. There was already some excitement and movement surrounding open ed in Wisconsin, but the intensity kind of varied significantly among different institutions. So for example, one college was offering stipends for faculty to start using and creating open resources, but other colleges might never have heard of it. Similarly, the knowledge that each institution had on open ed varied quite drastically. Some institutions may be huge promoters of it, while others may not have any idea that some faculty were already using it. Next slide, please. So the knowledge gap varied greatly and still does to some extent, but the Ideas to Action Fund has helped to bridge much of this gap by helping guide the Community for Open Wisconsin, or referred to as COW, through its infancy. COW is a special interest group of the Wisconsin Library Association, which specializes in making education more affordable, specifically through information resources. So we do this through collaborating across different institutions in Wisconsin, through K-12, public libraries, technical colleges, and universities and private colleges. This has helped us connect our local open ed experts and advocates to rally together for a greater cause at the state level. So having all these different stakeholders has required us to really think about an intentional design in steering the group forward. So this Ideas to Action Fund has really helped to provide us with the most important part of keeping the group together, and that's guidance and project management. It's helped us be more intentional in the work we do to stay focused and also move forward. So just a little bit more about COW. COW is, we have over 50 members, and it involves individuals from nearly all institutions of higher ed in Wisconsin, and as I mentioned earlier, K-12 and even some public libraries. The mission of COW is to advocate and collaborate for affordable education resources through the use of open ed resources, but also library resources, and then collaboration for publisher cost reduction and other related initiatives to improve student success. So to fulfill our mission, we have honed in on 4 different goals. One is education. We create and share information about education opportunities for those in the library field and for those who make the curriculum and materials decisions in educational institutions. So this would include faculty as well. We also focus, one of our goals is also advocacy, and that's basically, we try to do this through demonstrating the positive impact of OER on education and encourage statewide participation and funding. Another goal is discovery, through sharing and developing tools for integrating OER into library catalogs or reserves, learning management systems. And then collaboration. It's a goal of the group to create a community of practice among all Wisconsin libraries for information sharing and project collaboration. All right, one of the first things planned to help move the organization and Wisconsin forward is to host an educational training event on open ed resources. And really, we want to bring everyone in Wisconsin on the same page. So next month, we're offering a free 4-hour workshop at the upcoming Affordability Summit. And this is Wisconsin's Open Education Conference at UW Stout. And it will be facilitated by an expert consultant from a national open ed organization. And it's free. And we also plan on having a similar event next summer at WiLS World in Madison to promote greater access for people who might not be able to make the summit at Stout, more towards the southern end of the state. And we're also beginning to plan how we will intentionally and collectively advocate to Wisconsin legislature to kind of form a consistent message on open and affordable education. So, since the movement involves so many different stakeholders from a variety of different organizations, it's slow moving. As Eric mentioned, red tape, government, always something to look out for, but we're making great progress. There's also increasing support from state government as well as individual colleges. And about 2 weeks ago, Chippewa Valley Technical College was awarded a $2.5 million grant from the Department of Education to develop original resources. But the writing of this grant had the support of the community of Open Wisconsin. So the COW group drafted a letter to support the writing of this grant that we won. So tangible benefits have already been seen in the short time of the group's existence. All right, so more information on COW can be found at the webpage listed, or you can look on Facebook for Community for Open Wisconsin. Thank you, WiLS, everybody at WiLS, especially Andy, for your time, expertise, and money. And I just want to say that we really, really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Vince. We really appreciate all the work that you're doing, and congratulations on the grant award to Chippewa Valley. I had heard about that, so that's very exciting news. All right, so moving on to our final presenter, we have Jennifer Bernetsky from Schreiner Memorial Library in Lancaster. She's going to share their work to develop the Lancaster Business Center.
Thank you very much. Like she said, my name is Jennifer Bernetsky, and I am the director at the Schreiner Memorial Library in Lancaster. A little bit about our library. We're kind of a medium to small-sized library in a very rural area. Platteville is the largest city in the region. Dubuque is really the big city in the area. So if we want to go somewhere urban Dubuque is about 45 minutes to an hour away. So Lancaster serves as the county seat of our county, but because we lack nearby major cities, metropolitan areas, we really struggle to get businesses into our community. And our school sees the same thing. They have a really strong entrepreneurship program and a business program, but they run into the issue of student access outside of the school day. And because our community doesn't have, community centers or anything, the library really acts as that center. So while we have great internet bandwidth at the library, a lot of people in our service area still can't access high-speed internet. They either have dial-up or they don't have access to anything. So we serve as a tech hub for our community as well. And as part of our outreach, we work extensively with our school districts, and it's really created a lot of awesome programming and partnerships. So this business center was just a really natural way of working together. So our school media specialist found the WiLS Ideas to Action grant and knew that right away that she wanted to do it and she wanted to partner with the library. And we were so excited, so grateful to be awarded the grant because it gives us first of all, the incentive to actually do the project, but it gives us the resources that none of us have in our budget to do something new and to prove that it's worthwhile. Unfortunately, shortly after the grant was awarded, our school media specialist left for another job. So I was kind of left at the helm. And although that was sad, I was really actually surprised to find that this has really turned into a bigger project than we thought it was going to. So after I announced the award, I announced it to my library board and to our city council. The city council members were asking, well, why all of a sudden does the library care about entrepreneurship? What's your interest in it? And then it came out that they had been working on an incubator in the area for years, which I had absolutely no idea was the case, and I have not missed a meeting in 5 years. So it was a really great time for us to discuss how libraries, and our library specifically, has been supporting job seekers and small businesses for years. And I was able to get a list of people in the community who were on their incubator project list, stakeholders, people who cared about this type of project. So my list of partners grew from just the school to the city, bankers, other business owners, people who work with small businesses, and it really, really took off from there. That was awesome. And while our instinct is always like, spend the money right away, invest in what we see as the holes in our service, I was able to talk with Bruce, he's been working with me, and we really were able to step back and talk about the process in a really intentional way so that we make the best use of the funds. And so the first thing we did is had a meeting with the city administration, school people, our board and council, and the community stakeholders like bank managers, economic development experts, etc., so that we could talk about what we really wanted this business center to be, because we have, limited space in our library. It's a pretty new facility, but it's still, only 16,000 square feet, so we're not going to put an industrial kitchen in our library. We're really looking more at small businesses that are run fully or mostly online, and we can provide workspace, we can provide a lot of the online resources necessary to help people empower themselves to get their businesses off the ground. So that meeting resulted in us realizing the first thing we needed to do was compile all of the resources that all of the libraries pretty much in the state and definitely in our area already have. We have high-speed internet. We have updated computers, softwares, printers, scanners, a lot of learning resources, free programs and events. We have quiet study spaces. We have a community room for larger events. And these are things we already had. We have a collection on business topics in our print collection. So the first thing we needed to do was gather all of that, collect it, label it, organize it, and market it. Because we found that not only do entrepreneurs not know that all of these things already exist, the people talking to the entrepreneurs, our city administration and the bank managers, they didn't know that it existed. And it really filled a lot of the holes they saw as roadblocks. And it's the reason the library needs to work harder at shouting from the rooftops, you know, all the awesome things we do. So we spent a majority of our time building that website, and I'll put a link in our chat so that people can look at it. But we did that first, and then we really started spending a lot of time getting extensive feedback from prospective users, from people who already run their businesses out of the library, from people who are thinking about starting businesses, and this is where having bank managers on our committee has been really helpful because they know who's looking. And then really spreading the word about our resources and about our plan to enhance those resources. So as we went, the Business Center website is it's up as a draft. We're tweaking it and adding testimonials from business owners and things like that. And we've started working on our programming and marketing. So we're working with our Small Business Development Center in the area to run several programs on here's what to think about if you want to start a business, or here's how to develop a business plan, here's how the financial side that you need to consider before you even start a business plan. So we have some programs from them coming up. We're working with the Southwest Technical College on skills training for people who want to start businesses, you know, how to do your own accounting, things like that. And I'm lucky enough to have 2 lawyers on my library board. And so I was able to rope them into giving us program time where they spend an entire day at the library, and people can sign up for time slots for legal questions and answers about how to start a business. One of them actually specifically works with patent law as well as with small business, you know, LLC incorporation, stuff like that. So we've found a lot of resources in our community that have really helped us stretch what this grant started. And so what we've purchased so far is a few more print resources that basically everybody in this process has said we needed. We also are putting in some screen sharing tech in one of our study rooms so that people can use that technology without having to invest in it themselves. And we bought a little bit of extra software, like a QuickBooks type thing, so that people can test drive some of the softwares they might need before they invest in it. But really reaching out to the community and getting the word out, and the students at the school, as they are working with their entrepreneurship program, are seeing all of the things that are available at our library, and we're seeing more kids coming in to work on school stuff, not in school. And that was really the original goal, so it's nice to see that although this has really turned into a different type of project, that main goal is still being fulfilled. We're still able to help the students work on things outside of the classroom and extend their learning experience into the community. And the fact that they see adults working in the same spaces, I think, is really encouraging to them, because they see that, you know, it's not just, oh, we just created this for kids. It's a real thing, and it's really helping not just business owners, but even telecommuters use our community and stay in our community and have the resources they need. So looking ahead, we are trying to leverage all of the support we've had into funding more digital resources, some of the things that larger libraries have, like Reference USA and Demographics Now, and some Gale small business things that our system and our libraries down in this corner of the state don't necessarily have right now. And I think that as we move forward, we're going to see some of these banks investing in it, and maybe even the city investing in this project so that we can enhance what we're doing already. Something else we're really working on is we just need to find a way to continue getting the information about our resources out to people who don't use the library traditionally, or people who are thinking about starting a business but don't have the confidence to do so because they don't know where to start. So partnering with our Small Business Development Center has been really valuable because they do know how to get people the confidence they need to start. Something else we're doing is maintaining statistics on people who come in and use the spaces, but people who attend the programs, we're planning on trying to follow up with them to make sure that they're getting what they need, or asking them later if their business idea is becoming a reality, things like that. So that'll be some long-term analysis that's going to be happening. But right now we're just trying to get our information into the hands of the people who need it. And so I just wanted to say thank you to WiLS that the money has been amazing. It's sparked the project, and it's really gotten us talking to people we wouldn't have talked to otherwise. But the leadership they've given me in being able to plan the process and do the project management, something that you guys are so great at, has been perhaps even more valuable to me, because it's given me the confidence to take a project that wasn't mine to begin with and really get invested in it and turn it into something awesome for a small community who maybe wouldn't have had the ability to get all of these resources in one place otherwise. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. And thanks so much to each of you, each of our 2018 Ideas to Action recipients, for sharing all of your awesome work. It's really, really inspiring to see how these ideas that you proposed almost a year ago have really evolved into projects that are making real impacts in your communities, and they're all continuing to evolve and will continue to grow in the coming months and coming years. It's really exciting. As Melody mentioned earlier, 2018 was the first year that we offered this WiLS Ideas to Action Fund, and we're really excited to announce that we'll be offering it again in 2019. We'll be opening the application period starting on April 1st, so look for more information about the proposal process and requirements on our website in the next couple of weeks. The Ideas to Action proposals are reviewed by a committee that includes WiLS staff, it's been Melody and myself, as well as members of our board and finance committee. So I wanted to be sure to thank our 2018 committee members for their help in launching the Ideas to Action program. That was board members Teresa Voss from Verona Area School District and Paul Welshly from UW-Whitewater, and our finance committee member Sharon Nellis. So thanks to all three of you for helping make this happen. And I'm now going to turn it back over to Andy Coffin. Andy, I think you might be muted. Are you still there?
Oh, goodness gracious. I'm so sorry. Yes, I was. I just did like 5 minutes of presenting all muted. Okay, I'll start over. I'm going to talk a little bit again about the responses to the first question we asked, which was, what stopped you from acting on your great ideas? And I put a link in the chat if you want to see these responses yourselves. But not surprisingly, lack of time seems to be the most common thing that folks are experiencing that prevents them from launching their projects. But also, in addition to lack of time and interesting perceived lack of time that somebody had noted, is the issue of sort of confidence and resilience in the ideas that you have. There's some, hesitation to just jump right in because you're not sure an idea is a good one. And that kind of leads to this notion of a lack of support or expertise that you might have in your libraries for the things that you would need for your project. And of course, money is an issue. Interestingly, what's noted most, I think, in these responses is not that it's money so much as it is sustained funding. So maintaining projects and sustaining projects is something that's clearly on your mind as well. So thanks for participating in that. And it's interesting to think about those things against the ideas to action presentations that we just heard as well. So thank you for sharing. Before I spend a little time giving some updates about WiLS projects and services over the last year, I want to talk a minute about another thing that underlies what we do, and that's our values. We take these very seriously, and we spend time reflecting on how well we're living these values and if they're the right values to provide the best possible service to members. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I did want to focus on one in particular and tell you a little story that Steph asked me to relay, but this is actually a thing that happens to all of us. Last week, Steph was meeting with one of the consortia that we provide project management services for. And as she was walking them through the process for their annual planning, she found herself having to clarify just what she meant when she was using the word we. Because of our value, this one, and because our feeling that we are definitely part of this community and that we're part of the groups that we work with, we often find ourselves saying we when referring to the group as well as we when referring to WiLS. So in cases like that, awkwardly, we find ourselves clarifying by saying we WiLS when talking about something that we would do as project managers. It's messy and it's sort of ridiculous, but it illustrates how much we have internalized this value and how much we think of ourselves as part of the shared community. And we do hope that you see that reflected in our services and the updates we're going to provide for you today about those services. Another of our values is that we promote new ideas and experimentation, and we don't just promote these things like externally with members, we try to incorporate them into our organization. One of the experiments we undertook in 2018 was to realign our organizational structure. We work in a very fluid and a team-based environment, and as such, we needed a structure that could accommodate that and support that, so be flexible and allow us to continue that fluid completion of projects. But we also wanted a structure that would provide opportunities for additional leadership within the staff and maintain the importance of input and opinions from the staff as a whole. So what we came up with is what you see on this slide. We're still working in project teams, and most of our staff members are part of multiple project teams. Some teams have team leads now, that's new, and they provide more direction and in some cases supervision to team members. And we added 2 new groups, a strategy group, they're in orange, and a staff development group in blue. The strategy group, which consists of Steph Morrill along with Emily Fountainhauer, Melody Clark, and Bruce Smith, they assist the director with short and long-term strategy for WiLS. So identifying and evaluating new opportunities, generally kind of helping to manage the future directions and the growth of WiLS. The staff development group, which is Melody Clark, Steph Morrill, and myself, support the staff by regularly checking in sort of individually, helping to leverage expertise among the staff, and helping communicate that expertise to other staff members, and identifying areas where training or support or assistance are needed to individual staff members. Another big project we've been working on in the last year is the revamp of our cooperative purchasing service. And I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Brunner to talk a little bit more about that.
Hi, everyone. Let me get to the section here. So as you may remember, the cooperative purchasing team spent much of 2018 in a process of evaluating and revamping the co-op purchasing service. We surveyed members, talked to vendor partners, and got input from other consortia all over the country. And in December, we delivered a report outlining some of the changes that we'll be implementing to the service. The full report, of course, is available on the website. And since delivering the report, we've been gathering feedback from members and have begun implementing its recommendations. We identified 4 development priorities, so I'll talk briefly about what we're doing in each of those areas. So the first priority is reducing the work of day-to-day management and improving response time. So we've already been working hard to automate a lot of our processes and are actually going back to some older automations to improve those, make those work more smoothly. The goal there is to reduce the amount of hands-on kind of management as much as possible so that we can redirect that time and energy to other work. We're also developing better documentation of our processes to make it easy for team members to collaborate and back each other up. We have been, as we come up with new processes or refine them, we're making notes about those changes with the goal of later on this year doing a kind of a big documentation day for the cooperative purchasing service where we will pull together all of the documentation that we need into a manual that'll be easy for every member of the team to find kind of the workflow for something that they might need to do. We are also improving our response times to members by implementing a central email address for communications. That is coop@wils.org. That's an email address that's existed for a long time, but we are now trying to direct as much incoming communication about the cooperative purchasing service to that address as possible. And we kind of are in the process now of talking about the best ways to encourage that to drive the traffic there. The idea there, of course, is that if most of the incoming email is at a central address that all of us have access to, then it's very easy to support other members of the team if somebody happens to be in the midst of a high workload time or is out of the office, then somebody else might be able to pick up messages as they come in. Going along with that, we are already using Front, which is a third-party kind of front-end application that sort of sits on top of Gmail to facilitate those kinds of team-based email responses. It's possible in this tool to assign messages to members of the team, internal kind of communications to happen on sort of a comment level, so that when in comes in, if I need to talk to another member of the team, I don't necessarily have to forward the email. There's sort of like a chat or a comment function built into email so that we can collaborate a little bit and then respond more rapidly to the member who sent the email in. So the goal there, of course, is to get those responses, get that information to the members back to you as quickly as possible, faster than we've ever been able to before. The second priority that we identified was negotiation. So we're actually in the midst right now of an early start, calling it an early start process for several key subscription groups. So that means we've been requesting prices earlier for several of our larger group subscriptions, gathering member feedback, assessing alternatives to particular products. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. Sorry about that. Assessing alternatives to products, hopefully putting on trials of other products that might serve the same purpose. All of that is with the goal of more effective negotiation of pricing and license terms. We're hoping that the combination of member feedback, viewing alternatives, and just more information about our members' needs will position us to get the best price possible on these particular groups. Co-op members have already received requests for input about those resources that we'd like to tackle this year, so we will also be reaching out to members soon to get additional data about their budgetary situation, similar to what we did a couple of years ago, so that we can try to leverage that data as well. And then internally, there's a group of us working together to identify the things that we need to be able to better negotiate on behalf of the membership and the subscription groups. So we're kind of putting together strategic plans there as well. The third priority for the service is expansion. So we're taking a more thoughtful approach to expanding our catalog of resources, which also includes some addition by subtraction. That is to say, we've already started severing partnerships with a few vendor partners that haven't proven to be a good fit for WiLS members. And we have been, as a team, developing a new approach to assessing new partnerships to make sure that if we're adding a new partner, we're sure that they're providing something that you're going to want, so that we don't go through the time and energy of negotiating with a new vendor partner, promoting their resources, and nobody buys anything. We could have spent that time and energy on a vendor that you do want us to work with. So we're kind of reassessing that rather than the more open door, kind of more the merrier approach that WiLS has taken in the past. Finally, the last priority outlined in the report is awareness. So we've already started hosting the Taco Tuesday webinars to give members a chance to see quick, impactful demonstrations of new offerings from our vendor partners with a minimum time investment. So the idea there is that every other month we would have a kind of a standing webinar the first Tuesday of every other month, where 4 different vendor partners will get 10 minutes each to demonstrate or talk about a resource that they want our members to be aware of, leaving about 5 minutes for questions from the members as well. The idea there is that in 1 hour we can actually get 4 different demos in, and they'll be timed such that members can only come for the part that they're interested in. We'll also record the whole session and break the recordings down into those 4 sections, so that even if you can't attend, you could view the 15-minute segment that's most interesting to you or to your library. We already did one of those in February. We'll be doing them again, of course, in April and June. And then on the odd-numbered months, we'll also have Taco Tuesday sessions, but we're calling those Taco Tuesday potlucks. So the idea there is that members are actually bringing content, or participants in the webinar are actually providing the content. So there will be a theme or a topic, and members will have the opportunity to talk to each other, share information, ask questions about that topic. So keep an eye out for the March one. Actually, I think we're already promoting the March Taco Tuesday potluck. We're also building email lists by library type and also by interest area to provide consistent channels for both announcements from WiLS, but also for members to share information with each other. So these will be kind of topical lists where if you're an academic library, you can communicate with other WiLS academic libraries about whatever topic, or if you're particularly interested in ebooks or streaming video or other kind of cooperative purchasing topics, there would be a place for you to share information with each other and for us to share information with you. So those aren't the only tasks that we've undertaken based on the revamped report, but those are a few these initiatives are well underway, and we're really excited about the changes that they're going to allow us to implement for the service. So that's my time. I will now turn things over to Sarah Gold, who's going to talk about consortium management.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone. It's Sarah. I'm also a community liaison and service specialist here at WiLS, and I'm excited because I get to share with you about the consortia we at WiLS get to work with. So as you probably know, consortia are an effective way for our members to work together to provide services and resources while saving time and money. And WiLS provides management services to 5 consortia around and outside of Wisconsin. 3 of the consortia provide digital audio and ebooks to their members, and they are the Wisconsin Public Library Consortium, also known as the WPLC, which consists of libraries from 16 systems around the state that provide the Wisconsin Digital Library to public library patrons. And then we have the Horticulture Library Consortium, which consists of 6 botanical organizations actually around the country who support a shared ebook collection. And then the Wisconsin Schools Digital Library Consortium that provides audio and ebooks to schools at a low cost. And then in addition to those consortia, WiLS works to support the activities of WISPALS, which I'm not actually even sure what WISPALS stands for. We just call it WISPALS. But WISPALS is a consortium of 11 Wisconsin technical colleges, and WiLS manages the WISPALS shared ILS, as well as cooperative purchases, and coordinates the consortium in its day-to-day production and future planning, as well as serving as the fiscal agent. And then finally, WiLS supports the work of Recollection Wisconsin that Emily Pfotenhauer will speak about shortly. Okay, as I mentioned in the last slide, the Wisconsin Schools Digital Library Consortium, or the WSDLC, is one of the projects that we manage, and I'm so excited because this consortium turned 1 in January after 4 years of planning, consulting, meetings, and finally an RFP. And the WSDLC was created to provide audio and ebooks to public and private school students at a price affordable to everyone, regardless of their district and or school size. So for $1.50 per student, schools and districts get access to 3 collections of audio and ebooks for grades K4, 5-8, and 9-12. Currently, the library has over 4,500 titles and is growing weekly. The consortium currently has 110 participating districts and serves 132,000 students currently. So the WSDLC uses Overdrive as the platform currently, and the consortium titles integrate seamlessly with titles that are already in a school's Overdrive collection. The consortium is managed by a board consisting of CISA representatives, partnerships with the Wisconsin Department of Instruction, CISA purchasing, and the CISA statewide network. And then, as I said, WiLS is serving as the project manager. The WSDLC is a huge step towards equal access to digital materials in districts. And for more information, including membership forms, we did include the web address.
All right, thanks, Sarah. So this is Emily Pfotenhauer again, and I'm going to share some updates about one of the other consortia that WiLS manages, and that's Recollection Wisconsin. This is a multi-type consortium with 7 governing partners. It's Marquette University, Milwaukee Public Library, UW-Madison, UW-Milwaukee, Department of Public Instruction, Wisconsin Historical Society, and WiLS. And this consortium manages a statewide digital collection of cultural heritage materials and coordinates Wisconsin's partnership with DPLA, the Digital Public Library of America, And in 2018, Recollection Wisconsin reached a pretty exciting landmark in our partnership with DPLA. We're now contributing over 500,000 records from more than 200 libraries, archives, museums, and historical societies around the state. So that makes Wisconsin one of DPLA's largest state-based contributors. We also have a couple of federal grant-funded projects that Recollection Wisconsin is managing, and this has allowed us to add some new faces to the WiLS team. In 2018, we wrapped up the first year of a 2-year IMLS grant-funded project, Curating Community Digital Collections, which is coordinated by Vicki Tobias. In our first year of CCDC, we worked to match 6 graduate students from some from the iSchool at Madison and some from SOAS at UW-Milwaukee. We paired them with small cultural heritage institutions throughout Wisconsin to work on summer practicum opportunities to help them improve the organization, management, and storage of existing digital collections. And both the students and the participating host sites received training and mentoring, and we will be running a second cohort of this group this summer with 10 new students and 10 new host sites. We're also working on a federal grant from the NEH, the National Endowment for the the National Endowment for the Humanities, to digitize and preserve at-risk oral history interviews. We're working with about 1,000 oral history recordings from 25 contributing organizations around the state. These include interviews with both veterans and civilians from 20th century wars, and we're working with audiovisual project archivist Sean Baisley to lead this 2-year project. And finally, I don't have a slide for this one, but I did want to briefly highlight one more grant-funded project that WiLS is a partner on. This isn't part of Recollection Wisconsin, but we are working with the iSchool at UW-Madison to partner on another IMLS grant led by Washington State University and other national partners to extend the reach of Mukurtu CMS. Mukurtu is a content management system designed specifically for the needs of tribal and indigenous communities. And we have 2 grant-funded team members working on that project this year, Erin Hughes and Andrea Cudworth. And Erin and Andrea will be sharing more about their work with Mukurtu, particularly their work with the Ho-Chunk Language Division, in a WiLS World short webinar tomorrow. That's Friday at 1 p.m. There's still time to register for that webinar, and it will also be recorded and made available on the WiLS website if you're interested. So now I'm going to pass things off to Kate Clark, no relation to Melody Clark, another WiLS colleague, who's going to talk about WiLS consulting.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Clark, and I provide mostly administrative and data support to our consulting and consortium management teams. And Bruce and Melissa weren't able to be here today, so I'm just going to share a little bit about what they've been working on in 2018 and their plans for 2019. So WiLS does a lot of different projects with libraries. The main service we provide is strategic planning for public libraries. So in 2018, we completed 14 public library strategic plans and 1 for a public library system. And then also provided strategic planning instruction for the WLA Leadership Development Institute. In the coming year, we're working on 2 pilot projects that will hopefully kind of expand and improve the services we're providing. The first is that we're putting together a planning cohort for small libraries who might otherwise not be able to afford just like one-on-one support through that process. So we're in the kind of setup stages of that as a pilot program, and then in future years we're planning to offer that kind of in 2 sessions per year. We're also, one of the things that we've learned as we do these strategic plans is that marketing is a big area where libraries seem to need better planning and need help maybe with how to approach marketing services. So we're in the initial stages of developing a marketing and communications planning process that could kind of be independent or as a follow-up to strategic planning. And our goal there is to pilot that with 1 or 2 libraries this year and then offer it kind of more broadly as a service in 2020. So now I am going to give you back to Andy, who's going to talk a little bit about events.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, we have a bunch of great opportunities coming up. In addition to the Taco Tuesdays that Jeff mentioned earlier, again, that's the first Tuesday of every month at 11:30. We have these events coming up in the next few months. Tomorrow, we have a free WiLS World Shorts on Mukurtu, which Emily spoke about earlier. In April, on the 12th, we're excited to welcome Jessamine West, who's going to be joining us to help us learn more about how to talk to your patrons about protecting their online privacy. Registration is open for that. You can find information about all of these at the website at the bottom. And again, the slides will be shared with you, so the links will be in there as well. The ideas to action application period that was talked about earlier, that opens up on April 1st. And we also are busy with planning for Peer Council, which will be on June 3rd. That's our tech services meeting that's held annually here in Madison, this year at the Madison Public Library. And July 23rd and 24th will be WiLS World 2019 back at the Pyle Center in Madison with our keynote, Rebecca Stavik. We're very excited to get all the information out about that. And again, you can visit that website to learn more about any of these things. And registration is open for both WiLS World Shorts. So if you want to register, please feel free to do so. Let's see, on your way out, that was it. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Thanks everybody for being here with us today. We know today's meeting was a little long. You probably can't wait to get up and stretch your legs and use the restroom and heat up your coffee. But if you have a spare couple of minutes, we'd love it if you respond to this final question that we have. Which of the things discussed today, including the ideas to action projects, are most interesting to you in your work? You can respond at menti.com, use that code 134781, and then I will put a link in the chat right now so you can see those responses. I'm doing that. Oh, thanks, Melody. Yeah, welcome to hang around a bit and watch for those answers to come in. But with that, thank you all so much for attending today. We hope that you learned something valuable. If you have any questions or comments about today's meeting, about anything WiLS, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at this contact information on the screen. Again, we'll be sharing the recording and the slides from today's meeting, and those will come out in the next few days. And you'll also get a sneak peek at our annual report that will be included in the email to you. And from all of us here at WiLS, thank you all so much for attending today, and I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Sue, if you're still on the line, the April 12th WiLS World Short was Jessamine West, data privacy, it's going to be a presentation about talking more with your patrons about data privacy, online data privacy. Take care, everybody.